Okay, so now I think I'm audible there. Hello, everyone. Am I audible there? Now it should be. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now, and I was on mute at my mistake. So, so yes, 36 people are watching and only 17 likes. If you're excited about this course, if you're excited about the live coding, do click on the like button there. Okay, so let's talk about some contributions. So we got two contribution here. Okay, so we got contribution from two people. One of them is Karthik Rajendra, and the second name is Darshan. And we got the Java contribution. So we are using a code of Shilpa. So we are very thankful to these people. So thank you for contributing to the project. Okay, so today we are going to implement Hibernate here. So we'll be implementing Hibernate in our project. In fact, I was so excited about this. I was waiting for the 5 p.m. In fact, yesterday I was about to do this, but then there was some internet issues. There was lots of lags, and now I think it is perfect. So if you can just hear me, so I need one more favor from you people. I just need that like button on the like. I just need that button. Click on the like button, and I want you people to share this video with your friends on Facebook or whichever platform you use. Maybe you can also share this on WhatsApp, but do share. Let everyone know about some projects like this. At least I will be motivated with this, right? So this is how you can help me with now. So you have to by submitting the project or by sharing this video or by clicking on the like button. Uh, okay, so it's time to start the project. So last time what we did is, so let me just go for a quick recap what we have done till now. Okay, so we have, first of all, I have to start the recording from my side. I will be uploading this recording soon on YouTube. Okay, so it's time to start the recording. So here we go, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so what we are doing here. So in the last session, what we have done is, if you run this project, let me just run this project first. I will say run. Okay, so it is running. You can see the server is started. Let me just go to the browser. And in this browser, I have to run local 8082. And if I click on submit, not this, if I click on enter, oh, what's the port number? I guess I've given the wrong port number. Okay, let me just run this project once again. Right click, run as, run on server, and finish. Okay, you can see this is what we have done in the last session. When you call for, when you request for task project, it will, okay, so it's opening in file. Okay, so you can see it is showing the home page. But if I say feedback, because we are working on feedback now, right? And if I say feedback.htm, you got a page. Now this page is contributed by one of the member. So we'll enter a name. We'll say the name is Mahesh, and we'll say mahi@gmail.com, and okay, gmail.com, and then we'll say you are giving the feedback for the course, and we'll give a message which is good. And if I give a 4-star rating here, the moment I click on submit, if we click on OK, you can see I'm not getting a page here because we have not get that page yet, but we are sending all the information here. Now that information you can see will be printed on the console. So whatever we have entered in the main page will be printed on the console. Now why we are getting that is because in our code we are mentioned that whenever a user calls for feedback.htm, whenever a user click on the submit button will call add feedback, and add feedback we'll be having a method called as add feedback, and okay. So if you are new to this, do watch the earlier videos because I cannot talk about everything here. Okay, so what we want to do is the data which I'm getting in the feedback, I'm directly printing that data. I don't want to do that. What I want here is to store this data in the database. That's my agenda here. I want to store whatever data I'm getting here into database. Now, how we can do that? So there are multiple steps you have to follow. The first step is, whenever you want to work with Hibernate, you have to add the dependencies for Hibernate. Now, when I say dependency, I'm talking about the jar files. I mean, it is very important to follow the steps, okay? So I hope you have seen the earlier videos, and based on the earlier videos, we are going for the next session. And configuring the application is very, very important. Downloading the jar files and having all those things. So which jar files I need here? So you can see we already have a Spring jar files here, right? Now I want to add one more jar file, which is Hibernate jar file. So what I will do is I will go to my POM XML file, and in this dependency, I have to add the Hibernate jar file. Okay, I already have all the jar files in my system. I can just copy paste them, but then I wanted to show you how to add jar files so that it will be easier for you to work on the project. And again, whatever I'm doing now, it is actually contributed by Shilpa. So I will just write it here. We should mention the names, right? So I will say project. This thing is contributed by Shilpa Hemraj. Is it? Okay, so if there's any spelling mistake, sorry for that. So this project is the module which I'm talking about now is contributed by Shilpa. So thank you, Shilpa, for this. Okay, so what are the jar files we need here? So the first jar file is the Hibernate jar file. We want to use Hibernate here. So what I will do is, now from where do we get the dependencies? Now for this you have to understand Maven. Now if you don't know Maven, do learn about Maven. So to add the dependencies, we need to use Maven. Now, how do we use Maven here? So what we will do is, we will go to the Maven repository. Now this is the Maven repository. I want to use a Hibernate project. So I will search for Hibernate. And if I search for Hibernate, you can see I'm searching for Hibernate here. And so this is the jar files. This is the dependency we have to add. So I will click on this. Now the jar file I need here is, okay, so which version? Let's go for 5.2.9. This is the latest version. I never go for the recent version. I go for the stable version. You can see this library is used a lot. So let's go for that one. So we'll go for 5.2.9. Let's copy this. You have to copy this dependency, and you can just go back to our project and let's paste it. Now we got Hibernate dependency. The moment I say save, you can see in the dependency section here, we got all the library, all the Hibernate jar files. So these are the jar files I got using Hibernate. Okay, now what are those jar files I need? Now, since we are using Hibernate and Spring together, I also have to add one more jar file here, which is for Spring ORM. Now, remember this, whenever you combine Spring and Hibernate, we have to use that jar file. We have to use Spring ORM jar file. So we'll go for that as well. Let's go to Maven repository and search for Spring ORM. And this is what we want. So we want Spring ORM. Let's go for Spring 4.3.7. That's our Spring version here. Let's copy this. Let's go back. And let's paste it here. So we got the Spring ORM dependency as well. Okay, so these are the two dependencies we have added. Okay, so people who are asking questions in the chat window, just to let you know, we will only talk about the project in this live session. No other question, please. So let's not get distracted from this project. Okay, so okay, what else we have? So we got this dependency, which is Spring ORM. Now, next dependency is the MySQL dependency, because the database which we are working now is MySQL, right? So see this, we have added a dependency for Spring MVC. This is what we have done in the last session. Then we have added dependency for Hibernate core and Spring ORM in this session. We want some more dependencies here. One of the dependencies which we need is MySQL. So what I will do is I will go back here, and now which MySQL dependency we need. So let's go back to the Maven repository and search for MySQL connector. Okay, it is searching. Okay, so if I click on this, we'll go for the version which is 5.1.39. This is the stable version again. I will use this. And let's go back to our dependencies and paste. So we have added the Hibernate dependency, the Spring ORM dependency, and we have added to MySQL connector dependency. Now, what other dependency I need? So why we need all this dependency? First of all, we have added Spring MVC because we are building a Spring MVC project. I wanted to implement Hibernate. That's why we have added Hibernate code. I want to use Hibernate and Spring together. That's why we are using Spring ORM. See, we can either use only Spring with database, which is using JDBC, or we can use only Hibernate. But then it is better to combine Spring and Hibernate together to work, right? And that's why we require Spring ORM here. And MySQL, because the database which I'm working with is a MySQL database. Now we need two more dependencies here. First one would be for JDBC, because we'll be using JDBC pooling here. So I want to use database connection pool. And whenever you want to use pool, we use a dependency which is C3P0. There are different dependencies available for this. One of them is C3P0. This is JDBC connection pooling. Okay. So we got a question from Mohammed Faiz. We'll be using Hibernate annotations. I mean, to make an entity, we'll be using JDBC. We'll be using JPA, but then for the implementation, we'll be using Hibernate. Okay. So from this, we'll be using the first one because that is used a lot. Let's go back and let's go to POM XML file and let's paste it here. Okay, so we have added lots of dependencies, right? I mean, that's a critical thing. Okay, now if you're wondering, just to make a feedback form, we are adding all these dependencies. No, actually, we are doing this for the entire project. You just have to do this once. Okay, so once you have added all the dependencies, you will be using this for the entire project. So this is a one step. Okay, this is what you say, the initial configuration for the project. Okay, so we have added this one. Let's add one more. Now, see, so whenever you work with database, we know the concept of transactions, right? So we have the concept of rollback, we have a concept of commit. So whenever you do any transaction with the database, you have to make sure that either you click on, I mean, if everything goes good, go for commit. If something goes wrong, you have to go for rollback. Now, again, I don't want to do that. As a developer, I don't want to focus on rollback and commit. So what we can do is we can ask our Spring framework to do that transaction part for us. We have to add one more dependency, and trust me, this is the last dependency we are using now, which is Spring TX, which is Spring transaction. If I search for this Spring TX, this is the dependency we have to add, and we'll be adding 4.3.7. And let's go back and done. So by doing this, we have added all the dependencies which we need here. I know it is lots of dependencies, but then we don't have a choice. It is required to use JDBC or not. So we got a question from Karan. If you are using Hibernate, then we need JDBC. No, if you are using Hibernate, we only have to focus on Hibernate. We don't need JDBC there. Okay, so you can see we have added all these dependencies here. We got Spring MVC, we got Spring Core, we got Spring ORM, we got MySQL, we got JDBC connection pooling, and then we require Spring TX. So once we have added all the dependency, what next? Database, I mean, to connect with Hibernate, I don't know how many of you know Hibernate here, but I'm assuming that you know Hibernate. If you don't know Hibernate, that's fine. So just pause this video. And if you're watching this live, you don't have a choice. But then if you are watching this video afterwards, just pause this video and you have to go to YouTube and search for Telusko Hibernate. I do have videos on Hibernate on YouTube. So watch those videos. It will clear your Hibernate concepts, and you can just continue with the session then. Okay, so we got a question from Mohammed Fez. What about Spring security dependency? So we'll talk about Spring security later. Time being, we are not focusing on Spring dependency or Spring security, so we'll talk about that later. Okay, so now when you work with dependency, I mean when you work with Hibernate, you need to add. Okay, so we got a question from Abhay. You have added dependency C3P0. For that, do we need to add related properties? Yes. When you work with C3P0, you have to add the properties, which is pool size. You have to mention the minimum idle time and maximum size. You have to mention all those things. We'll be doing that soon. Okay, so you have to. So we need to use a Hibernate here, right? And whenever you use Hibernate, we need to create object of session factory. So what I will do is I will say private session factory, and I will name this as session factory. Okay, so I want to create object of session factory. Let's import the package for this, and you can see the package is imported and this package. So session factory is an interface which is coming from org.hibernate package. Okay, now the question arises. How do we use the session factory and how do we save the data? I mean, you will not believe it is so easy to store the data. Normally in JDBC, we have to follow 7 steps, right? I mean, I hope you all know JDBC. And if you want to do the same thing in JDBC, if you want to store this feedback in the table, you have to write the 7 steps. Now, fortunately, we got Hibernate. In Hibernate, you don't have to do 7 steps. I mean, you have to, but not in the code. So what we will do is, I will simply create object of session. I will say session equal to, and I will say session factory, which is the object of session factory which is created above, and we'll say get current session. So whenever you work with Hibernate, we all know that we have to work with the session object. Now, once you got the session object, let's import the package for that. It should be org.hibernate.session. And here, once you got the session object, what we will do is we will simply say session.save, and I will say save the feedback, and that's it. Your job is done. The moment you run this code, we are expecting that it will be storing data in the database. Unfortunately, if you run this code, you will get an error because we are still remaining with some configuration. Now, what configuration I'm talking about? Let's say if you run this code, how would your Hibernate thing? See, Hibernate is Hibernate, right? Hibernate is not Rajnikant to do everything by itself. You have to configure the Hibernate. But then where I will configure the Hibernate? Which place? Okay, so what you can do is, if you want to configure Hibernate properties, this is the file you have to use. So this is the file where you have to configure your Hibernate. Okay, so if you want to configure this, we have to add extra what do you say, the namespace here. The first namespace you have to mention is, okay, so what I will do here is, I already have typed this code somewhere, so I will directly use this instead of typing because it will waste lots of time. So the first thing we need here is the XSD, which is for transaction. Okay. So we will need this one. So we got this one. So we got PX. So XML NSPX. So which is XML namespace for transaction is this one. And then we have to also mention the XSD file for that. So the XSD file is, let me just copy that one as well. So I'm copying it and let's paste it here. Okay. So we have to add these things. If you are typing by yourself, you can type it. Okay, so that's great. Okay, so what we have done till now is we have simply created this, we have simply added that transaction thing. Now what else we need here? So we have to provide lots of configuration, right? The first thing we have to provide is the properties for connection pooling. Now I will not type all the properties here. I will simply copy those properties from the thing which I have in my system. I will try to upload all this thing on the GitHub. Don't worry. So once the session is complete, I will be uploading this thing on GitHub to copy. I will explain you what all this thing means. Just give me a second here. Okay, what went wrong here? Okay. Okay, so we got, okay, so whenever you want to configure your connection pooling, which is JDBC pooling, you have to mention the database place. So I have my database inside this system. I don't have database in my system. I have another machine just next to me with IP address 192.168.1.2, and in that we have a database which is Telusko. Okay, and we have to mention the driver class name, which is com.mysql.jdbc.driver, and you can mention the username password, and I'm revealing my username password here, that is root and root. This is the minimum pool size, and this is the maximum pool size. So I have minimum 5 connections, maximum 20 connections, and idle time would be 30,000 milliseconds. Okay, so we have configured our data connection pooling. Now, once we have done with this, next thing we have to configure is the session factory. Because see, when you talk about this object, nowhere we are creating object for this, right? I'm directly using the reference, and we cannot use the reference directly, right? We need to create the object. That is important. And since we are using Spring, I will not create the object by myself. Of course, right? When Spring is there, why you have to create object by yourself? You can ask Spring to give it to you. And while Spring is giving it to you, you can also assign the properties. Because whenever you use session factory, we have to provide lots of properties, right? So which property I'm talking about? Let me just copy those properties as well. So it's here. Let me just copy that. Okay, and let's paste it here. Now these are the properties for, just hold on. Okay, where was I? Okay, so yeah, so we have to set all these properties. Now, what is this property? So this is the object of session factory which I've created now. So this is a session factory object. Now, when you want to create a session factory object, again we can use a normal JDBC way, but again normal Hibernate way. But then using normal Hibernate way, it becomes very compact. You know, if you want to change anything, you have to change the source code. In Spring, what you can do is Spring provides you the Hibernate features. So using Spring ORM, you can use local session factory bean, which will give you the object of session factory. Okay, but you have to configure, you have to mention something. You have to first mention the data source. The data source which we have created here. Okay, so whatever data source, whatever properties you have mentioned here, the same properties will be used for data source. Next thing you have to mention is, where do we find all our entities? Now, currently we have only one entity, which is feedback. You can see we have feedback here. This is the only entity we have now. Okay, this is what we have done in the last session, right? We have created a feedback form here, feedback file here. So we have to mention we have to mention all our entities will be in this file. Okay, so you want me to increase the font size, but it is better, right? If you can see my video in full screen, and if you increase the quality of your video to 720, I think it is properly visible. Okay, so yeah, so I just verified this with my other machine, and I can see the font properly. Okay, so let's go back here. Okay, just before continuing, if you are just joining this session, we are doing a live project. If you are liking this session, do click on the like button so that I will know that you're enjoying this session, because that's what motivates me. Okay, so this is what we have mentioned here. We have, okay, let me just do some indentation here. Okay, just hold on. Okay, so as you can see, we have mentioned the place where you can find all the packages. The next thing which we need here is the Hibernate properties. Now, whenever you work with Hibernate, you have to mention some properties. One of them is, okay, so you're watching this on mobile phone, you want me to increase the font size? Okay, you win, I lose. Let me just change the font size here, and I will say text, color. Okay, I will make it 16, not more than that. Because if I increase more than that, then it will be a problem for me. I hope it is better now. I guess we can give multiple properties. I think the comma will work here. So you can, I think you can give comma as well. You can write by yourself as well. Okay, so you have to mention these two properties. So whenever you work with Hibernate, you have to mention these two properties. The first one is a dialect. Now, why we have to mention dialect is because different DBMS has different way of writing SQL queries, right? So one of the query is, I mean, if you're using MySQL, you have to use MySQL dialect. And then if you want to see the query which is running, you can say true, otherwise it is not compulsory anyway. You can, even if you don't mention this property, it will be by default false. Okay, so that's cool. Okay, so we have done with this properties. So we have mentioned the okay. So we have mentioned the data source. We have mentioned the property for session factory. We have to set one more property here, which is for transaction. Of course, right? We are doing a transaction here. So how do we set a property here? So to set this transaction property, let me just copy that. Okay. Okay, so let me just paste the properties for transaction. So for transaction, we'll be using Hibernate Transaction Manager. So because I don't want to manage the transaction, I want Hibernate to manage the transaction. Because I don't know how many of you learned Hibernate by yourself. If you watch my Hibernate videos, you can see in that I was managing all the Hibernate sessions by myself. Okay, the transaction. But now I will ask Spring to do it for me. Okay, let me just do some indentation here, just to make it look good. Okay. Now what else? What else I need? The final property we have to mention is for transaction. So we have to mention all the transaction will be done with the help of annotations. I will not be using transaction. I will not be doing transaction by myself. I'll be using annotation, and since we want to use annotation here, I'll be using this one. So I will say TX annotation driven, and I'll mention transaction manager as my transaction manager. Notice this my transaction manager. It is the ID which you have mentioned here. So you can see everything is interdependent here. So by doing all these things, we have configured our project so that we can work with Hibernate now. Okay, so I'm tired with this only. So we have configured our servlet XML where we have mentioned the Hibernate properties. So all the properties are mentioned here. In case in future, if you're not using MySQL, you just have to change this one. You have to change this one. You have to change which one? You have to change the dialect. That's it. So that's the advantage of using Spring, you know. Okay, now what next? Now once we have done with this, let's go back to our feedback DAO. And in this, we have this method which is feedback DAO. Okay, so in this, what we have to do is, I want to create object of session factory. Now I will not create object of session factory by myself. I'll be using Spring here. So I'll be using @autowired. Now, if you use @autowire, it will create the object of session factory by itself. Okay, but we got a question from Bharti. Bharti says property name will always be session factory. You're talking about this one? Yes, this property is always session factory because that is the inbuilt object of Hibernate Transaction Manager. You're downloading the source code, but once it is downloaded, you can see This one, which is the session factory, is the name which you have to use, and this session factory is our object which we have created here. In fact, we could have also used the auto wired XML property for that. We could have used that. Okay, so you can see we got the documentation for this, and I just hope I'm right about what I was talking about. Yeah, you can see the inbuilt object name itself is session factory, so you cannot change that. We don't have a choice. Okay, so well, that's good. I got 61 likes and 1 dislike. Okay, so someone is spamming the chat window. Let me just block that person. So Macho Kumar, you're blocked. Okay, great. So let's continue with this now. So okay, so we have set all these properties here. Now what next we can do? Okay, so now what I want is this should work. Will this work? No, because for transaction we have to use an annotation which is called as add transactional. Now we want it to manage the transaction by itself, so I will not use transaction by myself. I will ask it to do the transaction, and I will import the package from this, and yeah. So this is the thing that you have to use. So add feedback, we have to put @transactional on top of it so that it will manage the transaction by itself. Okay, so now it should work, right? But then I got a point from someone here who was mentioning about @entity. So TP world. Now TP world says if you have not mentioned @entity, will it work? No, we have to mention that, right? But if you don't mention, what will happen? It will give you error, right? So let's mention that. So let's mention this is @entity. So whenever you use Hibernate and whenever you mention, whenever you want to use, whenever you want to specify that this will work with Hibernate, you have to use @entity. That will make it @entity. This will make it @entity, right? This will make it as entity, yeah. And we have to also mention the primary key. Now I was not thinking about primary key earlier, but now it is compulsory to use primary key here. So I will make this email as a primary key. So I will say @ID. So using @ID, you can make a variable as a primary key of a table. So if I use @ID on top of email, it will make a primary key. Okay, now I think everything should work. Let's try. How many of you think it will work? I don't know. Let's take a pause. By the time you answer, let me just have a cookie. Okay. How many of you think it will work? 33 people are watching, no one is answering. If I'm sounding weird, I'm actually having a cookie, so. Okay, no one is answering. Let's run this code. Let's run this code and see if it is working or not. Let's go back to our Firefox. Where is Firefox? It's here, and let's refresh this. Hey, hi Shilpa. Thanks for the code. So we are using your code here. I hope it will work, Shilpa. Okay, so I will use Mahesh, I will use all this detail, and I will click on submit. I got thank you here. Okay, so we got an error, but that's it because we don't have a JSON, we don't have a welcome page. Let's go back here in my STS. Where's my STS? It's here, this one. Okay, you can see this is working. We got a Hibernate output which says insert into feedback. It has inserted the feedback, but how do you verify this? Oh, I forgot to mention, I have already created a table, right? In the last session, we have created a table. So it will be using the same database here. So I will go to my workbench, and if I fire the query, yay, can you see that? We got Mahesh, we got email ID, we have not entered the message. Oh, what's wrong with message? What's wrong with message? I guess I have not typed the message there, is it? Let's go to Firefox. Oh, I have typed the message, but message is not coming here. So there's one problem with the message. Message is not coming, registration is coming, code is not coming. Okay, we have not entered the code. There's something wrong with the message here. Let me just verify what that problem is. So if I see my HTML page, okay, if I see my HTML response, you can see message here is MSG, and the message there is the complete message. Let's see how that. So what we'll do is we'll change this name here. So I will say right click. Okay, not here. I will right click on the feedback. I will say alter table. I will make it as, I want to change this message to message MSG, and let's apply. Now again, this is on another machine. It will take some time to reflect. Okay, it's taking lots of time. Anyway, let's try once again. Let's try with different output or different values. Let's go back here. What's wrong with this thing? So if you have just joined this session, do click on the like button so that I will know you have just joined this session. And I hope you are sharing my videos with your friends. Why is taking so much of time? Okay, let me put it aside. And let's refresh the page. And we'll insert a new values here. Okay, I'm not able to get the focus as well. Okay, we got a scope. Okay, my machine is working very slow now. Okay, let me just change this name. I will name this name as Kundan. And I will mention the email ID as kundan@gmail.com. You want to rate it for me, and you will insert the code as 101. Okay, 010. And we'll say good. Very good. Okay, and we'll keep the feedback as 5. Let's click on submit. Thanks for the feedback, Kundan. Okay, let's go back to our database, and it is still, my database is actually hanged here. Workbench is not working properly. Let's right click this and say force quit. Okay, so let me open my workbench once again. Okay, let's try now. Let's use Telusko database, and let's fetch the feedback. Okay, can you see that we got Kundan here? We got Kundan. We got 2. We got 101. So we have not got the message yet. Is because we got a message, but why is not working? Let's verify with this. Let's open STS. Let's see feedback DAO. Everything is perfect here. Also, we don't have a message here. That is weird. How can we make this type of mistakes? And let's have the constructor for that as well. In fact, we are not using constructor, right? Let's remove this constructor from here. Okay, I need get a status for message as well. So I will say right click. Close and right click, data setters. Okay, we got a question from Faiz, which is better, the annotation way or XML? I always prefer annotation way because it makes my work easier. I was never a fan of XML before, so that's why I always prefer XML way. Sorry, annotation way. Let me restart the server. Let's see if it is working or not. Let's go back to Firefox and let's do this again by changing the email ID of Kundan because we have made it primary key, right? So I will say Kundan, let's say kun@gmail.com. Let's submit this. It says, thank you for the feedback. Let's go back to the database now and let's fire this query now. Run. Can you see that we also got the message this time? Okay. So yes, we can also use create an update instead of using save. We can also use create an update here. So the way we are using save method, we can also use update method. We can also use delete, all those things. Okay, so that's it. So congrats, we have done with the database code and we have used Hibernate. So I'm very happy with this because I was not thinking about Hibernate before. I was thinking about JDBC. I wanted the code in JDBC, but then Shilpa has given us the code in Hibernate and then I've implemented that. So it is working. So we'll be continuing with Spring and Hibernate so that we'll be having that complete power, right? So, so what I want from you, so complete this project by yourself now. So we have done only for the add feedback. I want you to create a method called as get feedback. So I want to see all the feedbacks here. I want to see, so I want to see all the feedbacks. So we should be able to add feedback. I want to see all the feedback. So I want you people to complete that stuff for me and send it to me. Upload your project on GitHub and give that thanks to me. So, okay. So we got a question from Karan. In Hibernate tools, we have okay. So that is different, right? We are using Hibernate.cfg where you can use create and update. In Spring, it is better to create database by yourself initially, and then you can use that. In fact, in Spring Hibernate also we can do that. It's a point of research. Then Google how to use that. And that's it from this live coding. What I want from you in the next session is, I want you people to redesign this page. So we are almost done with the feedback, right? So we have done with the initial step. The next step would be, I want you people to give me the home page. I want you people to redesign the home page. Okay, so just opening here. My internet is working very slow, so I don't know why it is doing this. Yesterday also it was not working properly. Come on, get me the page, get me my website. Okay, so I want you people to redesign this page. Okay, so what I'm expecting is, instead of having three different, okay, so first of all, let's talk about the links. So I want, you can see, you have a power, you can redesign these things the way you want. I want this online course to be on the top here, not here. I mean, that is what I have done. I'm not good with designs, right? So I want, okay, so this page slider, you can just animate this in a different way. Okay, and then you can, so you can see we have explored our videos, happy coding, so you will get the codes from here and you can also give the test. Instead of having two different sections, can we just have everything in one section? We can have a video, we can have codes, and we can have test. And if I click on the video icon, it should expand it to something like this. If I click on the code icon, which should be here, if I click on that, it should expand in the code text. So that's what we are expecting here. So I wanted to design this thing, and we got a question from what about deployment with App Engine? Yes, we'll be doing that in the next session. Since I was about to talk about Hibernate today, in the next session, which will be on Monday. So the next live session will be on Monday, and we'll be deploying the project on Google App Engine by Monday. Sunday, I will try to take the live session. I'm not sure about will it be taking on Sunday or Monday. I will try my best to take it on Sunday, but if I don't get the time, I will take it on Monday. Okay, and I also want one more update here is if you can show the latest videos. Somewhere after the slider, if you can show the latest video. So whatever video I'm uploading on YouTube, if you can just put that, if you can just put that here. Okay, so we got a question from Tech Talk Tricks. Okay, what is your question? I'm getting so many comments here. In the previous video, I was not able to insert Maven in Eclipse. I guess you're using old Eclipse and that's why it is not working. So make sure you use the latest version of Eclipse, Mars and Neon. It should work. But then if you are using Spring, I would suggest you to go for STS only because STS will provide you all the Spring features. So use STS instead of using Eclipse. And anyway, STS is Eclipse, right? So why you're worrying about that? Use STS. And just follow my steps. Whatever I'm doing now, just follow the same steps. You can do the experiment by yourself later, right? Yes, Karan, images for slider. Images for slider. Yes. Okay, you want the images. What you can do is you can just give dummy images, and we will replace that. So we have a design team here. They will replace the images. Okay, Bharati got a question. So Bharati, I will be discussing that in the batch. Okay. Okay, so STS is also available on Windows platform. It is available on all the platform. Okay, that's it, guys. I hope you are enjoying this thing. So if you're enjoying, please click on the like button and do share this with your friends. I need your support here. Okay, because in future I have lots of plans to do, but for that I need good amount of members on YouTube, right? So do share this video with your friends. So thank you so much for watching, and that's it. Enjoy your, thanks.